Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. And we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We just passed 510 subs. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and I hope I can continue to make great content you guys will enjoy in the future. Now, who should the Carolina Panthers draft #1 overall? There's been a lot of debate between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, two really talented quarterbacks, but they're both very different style quarterbacks, and that has raised a lot of debate. Who should the Panthers draft? I'm going to go over the pros and cons of both quarterbacks, who I think the Panthers will end up drafting, and which quarterback I think they should draft at the end of the day. Now, looking at both these quarterbacks, CJ Stroud is from Ohio State, Bryce Young is from Alabama, two teams that are at the top of college football. They're both blue bloods of college football. They're the major brands. Quarterbacks have been taken from both schools for the last 2 decades, to varying results, and a lot of people have used the past quarterbacks from these schools as an example. As a con for CJ Stroud, because a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks from the past have ended up being bust. Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins. And you look at other quarterbacks like JT Barrett and Troy Smith, they all failed in the NFL. But then you look at Alabama, they did not have successful quarterbacks either. If you look at Greg McElroy, or you look at AJ McCarron, or even if you look at quarterbacks more recent like Blake Sims, Jake Coker, and even moving on to Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones, most of the quarterbacks have been bust. The only quarterbacks that have had a lot of success in the NFL so far is Jalen Hurts, and he's technically not even classified as an Alabama quarterback. He's actually an Oklahoma quarterback because of the fact he played with the Sooners for the last season of his college football career. But you look at someone like Tua Tagovailoa, he's extremely talented, but he has health issues. Hopefully he can get that under control. And Mac Jones has been up and down. So I don't think using either school's past quarterbacks as an argument for who to draft is really a good reason or example to use for either of these quarterbacks. But looking at both these quarterbacks, CJ Stroud is the quarterback of the two. You look at his size, he's got the prototypical NFL quarterback size at 6'3", 214 pounds. Most of the best quarterbacks of all time have been around 6'3", 6'4". There have been a few that were around 6 foot and 6'1", but still at the end of the day, most quarterbacks that are really tall and have the weight to be able to take on sacks and a lot of dangerous hits in the NFL have the most success and have long careers. And you look at CJ Stroud's stats at Ohio State, he lit it up. Now, a lot of people will talk about the fact that Ohio State is some of the best receivers in college football, which definitely helped out CJ Stroud, but so did Bryce Young in Alabama. They've had some great receivers as well. But CJ Stroud had 81 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in his college football career and 1 rushing touchdown. And I know a lot of people talk about the rushing stats these days with quarterbacks. You got to be able to run the football to have some success in the NFL if your passing game isn't working, or especially if your offensive line isn't that good, because you want to be able to scramble and get out of sacks and be able to not take hits. But CJ Stroud is a capable runner. He showed that in the Georgia game in the college football playoff semifinal. CJ Stroud can run the football. He just didn't because he didn't want to get hurt and ruin his draft stock and move him down the list. And I think that was a smart move by CJ Stroud. He did not have to show the ability to run the football for him to be a successful quarterback. He's done so much through the air. CJ Stroud is a great passer. He didn't have to run the football that much to show it, but he did show in the Georgia game that he can run the football. So those rushing stats are a bit deceiving, and the passing numbers are fantastic. But looking over at Bryce Young, a lot of people are talking about his size. He's only 5'10" and 204 pounds. But I don't think necessarily that the size of a quarterback is the be-all and end-all. I know for some it might, but I don't think it is for Frank Reich, because you look at Frank Reich. He just said the other day that he did not think that the size of Bryce Young really mattered, and that he actually is really considering Bryce Young. And this is really where the debate heats up, because a lot of people feel that CJ Stroud is the foregone conclusion quarterback for the Panthers to take. But now that Frank Reich is pointing out that he really likes Bryce Young as well, and that the size doesn't really matter, then that actually is raising more of a debate that potentially the Panthers might take Bryce Young. But looking at Bryce Young, as evidenced by some of the shorter quarterbacks in the NFL, some quarterbacks have really struggled. Kyler Murray is the big example that everyone's using because he's around 5'10" as well, and Kyler Murray has had a lot of struggles. But a lot of people think that Kyler Murray's having more issues off the field than he is on the field, because he actually has had some really good moments in the NFL, but for some reason around the halfway point of every season, you look at Kyler Murray's statistics, they really start to dip, and a lot of people are wondering if there's just off the field stuff going on with Kyler Murray. Is he all the way balled in? And a lot of people at the Arizona Cardinals are really frustrated with Kyler Murray, so I don't necessarily think Bryce Young will have that problem. He's committed to football. He's done everything right in this process of the NFL draft, and when he was a college quarterback, he has a high IQ, and I think overall he's going to do everything he possibly can to have success success in the NFL. And in college, he had 80 touchdown passes and 12 interceptions, and he had 7 rushing touchdowns. So the passing touchdowns to interceptions are identical to C.J. Stroud, except Stroud had 1 more touchdown. And I think part of that's due to the fact that Bryce Young missed a couple games to injury in this past season. C.J. Stroud missed 1 as well, but Bryce Young missed a little bit more time. And he also had 7 rushing touchdowns, which is huge. It goes to show Bryce Young can run the football, which I think is going to be really key for his size, because he's not going to be able to sit in the pocket all the time. Being the size and weight that he is, he's going to get destroyed back there. So he has to be able to run the football. And I do think overall, looking at Bryce Young, he probably will have more success than Kyler Murray because of the fact of his work ethic and how hard he works overall. He does such a great job on and off the field. He does everything the right way. I think that Bryce Young will have more success and be able to avoid the problems that Kyler Murray has had. But you still do have to worry about the size. Will he be able to take hits in the NFL? Will he be able to sit in the pocket and be able to throw the football behind offensive linemen that are 6'4" and 6'5"? And Bryce Young has said in the past he has a hard time throwing the football over the tall offensive linemen. So that will be an issue. And I think overall, looking at Bryce Young, he's a really talented player. He has the running ability. He runs more than C.J. Stroud. And he is a great passer, and he can pinpoint all of the throws. But what if his confidence gets rattled being in the NFL behind the tall offensive lineman, all those pass rushes coming after him? It could be an issue, and it could really rattle his confidence. And if he gets hurt early on in his career, it could really hurt his confidence, and then Bryce Young won't be able to recover. So I think overall, Bryce Young is definitely a more risky option than C.J. Stroud because of his size. We don't know how he's going to be able to handle the pressure of the NFL because he's so short and his weight is not where it needs to be. I think Bryce Young potentially has the higher ceiling because you don't know what he's going to be capable of. He could be one of those guys that just goes out there and just balls out for years to come. He's a great runner, and he can throw, and he's able to avoid hits like Tom Brady, but even though he's a lot shorter, he'll just have to be able to not take a lot of hits to be able to keep playing football. But C.J. Stroud is definitely the better quarterback of the two based on the position. C.J. Stroud is a quarterback. You look at his size, it's exactly where it needs to be. 6'3", 214 pounds. He's the perfect size for a quarterback. He had great success at Ohio State, and even though a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks have failed in the past, so have Alabama quarterbacks as well. I don't think that's going to be a knock on C.J. Stroud. You look at Justin Fields as well. A lot of people said he's a bust, but he's a great runner. I think if he finally gets a really good team around him, he could have success. And I think C.J. Stroud can have a lot of success at the Carolina Panthers because of the fact he is a prototypical quarterback. He could have a really long NFL career based on his size as long as he doesn't take a lot of hits. And he does have scrambling ability, and he usually does a good job of not taking ridiculous hits when he does run. I think for the Carolina Panthers, taking C.J. Stroud at the end of the day is the better option because he's just the better prototypical quarterback. He won't probably get hurt as often unless he does have some injury issues, which you can never predict. But based on his size, you would think that he wouldn't get hurt as much. I do think the Carolina Panthers, at the end of the day, will go with the safer option and pick C.J. Stroud. I could be completely wrong. You never know with Frank Reich and what he's saying right now. He could just be stirring up a little bit of drama and debate to make things more interesting, which is really cool with Frank Reich. You always love when you never know what's going to happen in the future with these situations. And it should make the NFL draft a lot of fun to see who the Carolina Panthers will pick at the #1 spot. But I do think the Carolina Panthers will take C.J. Stroud. He's the safer option. Bryce Young might have more upside, but C.J. Stroud is the safer pick. He should have a lot of success in the NFL if he grows and develops. He probably have a better chance to be less injury prone. And I think behind the Panthers offensive line, that's not bad, but does need some work. I think C.J. Stroud will have a better chance of being able to take more hits and not have some injury issues in year one. But if the Panthers can get a better offensive line, get a really good receiving core that they do need a little bit of help there, if they can do that, then C.J. Stroud will have a lot of options to throw to, and I think he'll have a lot more success. Again, Bryce Young, he's so tantalizing with his speed running the ball and the pinpoint passes that he makes, and he's a great player overall. In Alabama, you could argue, now with Jalen Hurts, if you credit him as an Alabama quarterback, and some of the success Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones have had, that maybe Alabama quarterbacks have a bit more success, but overall I don't think that's going to matter too much. I do think Bryce Young could have the higher ceiling, but he also has a lower floor as well if he does get hurt, if he's just not able to last long in the NFL, or he gets rattled by the size of the NFL. Bryce Young is a really interesting pick, and I think that the Panthers definitely should keep their eye on Bryce Young as they go through this NFL draft prospect, not blow him off and give him just as much of a chance as C.J. Stroud to be the #1 pick. They should definitely entertain that option, and I think think that Bryce Young definitely could be a good option for the Carolina Panthers, but it's a much riskier option, and I think that C.J. Stroud at the end of the day is a safer pick, and I do think the Carolina Panthers will pick C.J. Stroud at the end of the day. And if C.J. Stroud is picked and he has a really good NFL career, then the Panthers made the right decision. But it will be interesting to see how both Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud perform in the NFL, who the Panthers do pick at the end of the day, but I do think that the Carolina Panthers will take C.J. Stroud because he's the safer option. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think the Carolina Panthers will take C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young as the first overall pick, and which quarterback you think will be the better option for the Carolina Panthers to take at number 1. Follow me on Twitter as well, and I will see you next time.